You've seen the work we've put in, day out, challenging myths, debunking old wives' tales, and rejecting poor breeding practices. We've dedicated years of research, study, and real-world experiences to perfect the art and science of breeding. And we do it for one reason: to bring you the best, most accurate information possible. Because you know what? You deserve nothing less. But to keep this mission growing week after week, we need you. If you found value in the Bred to Perfection podcast, please take a moment to rate and review us. A 5-star rating and a quick comment might seem small, but every review helps us reach more breeders who need to hear the truth, who want to learn what it really takes to create, improve, and maintain top quality strains. This isn't just a podcast, it's a movement, and you are a vital part of it. If you believe in what we're doing, if you want to help others wake up and become better breeders, push this podcast to the top. Rate, review, and share. Together, we make a difference. Thank you for standing with us. Now, let's get to work. Entertaining, informative, and educational. Inspiring content that makes a difference.
This is the Maximus Troy Publications Broadcasting Network.
Join the Academy. The Breeders Academy proudly presents Bred to Perfection with Kenny Troiano, a show for serious breeders.
Whether you are looking to create a new strain or simply improve an old one, you have come to the right place.
Daddy, I want more chicken.
Oh, boy.
Now, here's your host, Kenny Troiano.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Bred to Perfection. My name is Kenny Troiano, and this, my friends, is the podcast devoted to helping you become a better breeder and taking your strain to the next level. That's right, my friends. It doesn't matter if you are brand new to breeding or you've been breeding for many years. There is something all of us can do to improve our fowl for future generations.
You've heard me say this. My mama did not raise a fool, and if she did, it was one of my brothers.
Okay, welcome to another episode of Bred to Perfection. I'm Kenny Troiano, founder of the Breeders Academy, and I'm here with my wife Nancy and co-host Frank Bradley. Hey, what's up, guys?
Same old, good to be back.
Yeah.
I played hooky the last 2 times.
We missed you.
Same here. I'd rather been doing this than what we was doing. Tell you, those floods and winds and water, and I don't want to see no rain for a long time, I'll tell you that.
It's funny, I was co-hosting a show recently, and we were talking about the difference between like California and other states, and they were saying they don't like our rain. I'm like, we don't get that much rain. We get just enough rain usually to get the grass wet, keep the ground green. Man, you should have seen it yesterday. It rained all day and as hard as it could rain. I was afraid to go outside. I thought my birds were going to be underwater. The ground must have been really dry because it wasn't bad at all, but it was pouring off the roof.
Here it's not too bad. If we get a hard rain like that and we've got some wind involved in it afterwards, it dries up pretty fast. But we got over 40 inches just in a few days. Places that hadn't flooded was underwater. It was terrible. We lost some Kentuckians and families lost everything they had. My hearts go out to them, prayers for them. It was terrible. I complain about the weather here a lot, but I guess we're fortunate because the other ones didn't turn out too well for them. At least we was blessed by not losing life or property like others did. That's a good thing. But every year you can set your calendar to it. That 40-inch rainfall for the past several years, you can set your clock to it.
I've never seen anybody get such extremes in weather as you guys do in Kentucky.
I'll say this, it makes culling easier. It really does. Because with the weather we have, no weak chickens here. Only the strong.
I love the way Mother Nature helps you cull because it does breed healthier, stronger chickens. So I'm big into that. If I can let Mother Nature do some of it for me, great. One of the reasons I like letting them forage and free range. But it's a little tough because we're always in fear of AI right now. So I'm being very careful what I let free range. So I'm getting a lot of eggs.
I found two dead wild birds on my property.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I was like flipping out. But I had a little buddy falcon that was actually doing it. I caught him in the act doing it, so
Oh.
I felt better after that. Falcon just comes down and just hits them, and it knocks them out. I was like, oh, thank God. But I still removed them from the property and burnt their bodies just to make sure. But that was a scare, finding two not too far from each other.
Hopefully they'll get a handle on this, although it might get worse before it gets better. Nancy, did you even find out how many inches we got yesterday? Did you ever look it up?
You know what? I don't know, but my bird feeder was full, and that's about 3 inches there. So I'm
that's a
sure it
shower.
was that and more because it rained all night last night.
Heavy.
But tomorrow it's going to be 70 degrees. So.
Yeah.
That's the thing here. I love, especially in the summer times when it's thunderstorms, to open the window up.
Yeah.
And the air conditioner's still on, but I'll still open the window up to just listen to the storm, the rain hitting the roof, running off the sides. It makes me sleep so good, it just calms me. But every time it's through the day, and as soon as we get ready to go to bed at night or early morning, it quits. Every time. Can't catch the thunderstorms to be able to sleep to them. It's always during the times that we're up.
I was working at my desk, working on some projects last night, and I'm hearing this rain come off, and I'm praying that I don't hear my chickens go berserk about anything, because I'm like, I'm not going out there. I just don't care. I'm not going to go out there and get wet. You guys better not scream because I'm not going out there. It was that bad. So I was just praying I wasn't going to hear anything. I even shut the window.
The predators was probably taking a break during
I
that
hope
too,
so, because they were going to have a feast on my birds, if anything, because it was so bad. If you want to listen to our podcast, which I do recommend because the material on the podcast are really good, and those are really fun to listen to, just go to those particular platforms, like I said, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon Music to catch those. And you just want to just drive your car and listen, or you want to do other things, go to those platforms, listen to our podcasts. I think you'll really enjoy them. They're really fun. For our members, make sure to join us after this show for the Members Roundtable. So get your questions ready, and Frank and I will address those when we get over there. And today we're going to be talking about the principles of strain creation and animal breeding.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. This show was brought to you by the Breeders Academy, where we will help you to increase your knowledge of breeding, advance your skills as a breeder, and help you to improve the quality and performance of your fowl. As a member, we'll provide you with the roadmap that you will need to create a true family or strain. I urge you to check it out. You've got nothing to lose, and you can cancel at any time. You also have a 30-day money-back guarantee. Simply go to www.breedersacademy.com to sign up.
The Breeders Academy will not only change the way you think about breeding, but improve the way you breed your fowl.
I hope to see you there. So let's get started.
This is going to be a really fun one because it's 6 really important key principles that I think everybody should know when it comes to actually creating your strain and improving your strain. This is an article I'm working on inside the Breeders Academy, and I was looking it over and I was like, wow, this would be a really good one to talk about and discuss. So I put it together for the show. Like I said, this is 6 key principles necessary for creating a strain, and it consists of principles of consolidation, the principles of
Maximization, the principles of fixation, the principles of stabilization, and the principles of isolation. I interrupted you because I wanted to make sure that the people inside the Breeders Academy know that even though we are talking about an article that Kenny is setting up for the Breeders Academy, this article is just skimming the surface. What you're going to get inside the Breeders Academy is going to be a lot more than this.
Yeah, we're just going to talk about a handful of bullet points. The first one is the principles of consolidation, enhancing genetic diversity. Frank, this is an interesting one because, as we know, the Founders Program is made up of many methods which make up the program. And I have no problem talking about the first stage to get people going, but this is actually what it's all about. It's the idea of creating your seed fowl, your Adam and Eve. We have a number of programs like the Founders Program. We have the Gene Shopping Program that help you do this. but it's all about increasing genetic diversity and obtaining the desired traits so that you can create the Adam and Eve to begin with to start your breeding program.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, we all want to jump into it and go full throttle with it. But to do it and do it right, you have to set yourself and be patient and do it as it needs to be done. And once again, talking about these bullet points, everything in moderation. I think sometimes we get overjoyed in what we're doing and we're seeing the results that we expect, and we get overzealous and go too gung-ho and leave out the moderation part. So I've been known to do that myself, but it's following something, putting your foot down, saying you're going to do it, doing it in a way that it is written, and not taking any shortcuts.
It's important to get started on the right foot. And starting with the right seed fowl means everything, because it's going to determine how quick and how well you get through the breeding process. Because if you start poorly, you may never get there, or it's going to take a long time. And we talk about that there's two different ways to begin is to obtain the birds, the best birds possible. And a lot of times those birds aren't related. A lot of times they come from different farms or they're crosses, and that's what you're forced to start with. But as long as they represent the breed, the variety, and what you hope to create from a family, then you're good to go. But sometimes you have to create your own Adam and Eve. You have to do what we call gene chopping. I don't want you to misunderstand what that means, because it is a process all on its own. Because it's not about just collecting genes from different places and just breeding them all together and continuously do it. There's a process to it. And if you're not careful, you could be bringing in genes that are actually eliminating other genes, or you're losing the intensity of some genes. So it is a process. There's maybe 3 different ways to begin consolidation. The obtaining your seed fowl. Outcrossing for diversity. A lot of people want to call it refreshing. Refreshing is probably one of the worst things you could do, because what they call refreshing is actually recombination. It's actually changing the family.
Making hybrids when you refresh.
They are, but they're actually recombinating genes. Meiosis is a good example of this. Meiosis alone just proves that it doesn't work. That the idea of bringing a new blood to refresh them is the opposite of what they're actually trying to obtain. Crossbreeding would be another one, which would be the actual introduction of new traits, but I would only do that in the beginning of a program, never in the middle or in an established strain or in a foundation, because again, you're back to changing them. Frank, one of the biggest ones is gene infusion. We talk about that all the time, is the 1/16th infusion method, where it basically goes to the idea of refreshing. But basically, they're practicing gene flow. They're always introducing new genes. Until they stop that flow of genes, they're actually not going to create a family.
Refreshing is starting you all over from the beginning when you do it. And I see a lot of people nowadays that just wants 1 strain or 2 strains or whatever it may be, and they start their first strain. And the first thing they do, they go out and they get the birds, and they really don't think about it before they do it. They just go out and get them. And before they realize it, they've got a dark hen and a light red cock, or vice versa. Or they get a silver cock and a red hen, and they get golden grays. And then they decide, oh, I want silver instead of golden. So more or less, you have to watch when you're choosing your seed fowl and not shoot yourself in the foot. You want to match them as best as you can from the start, and you want them as good as you can. Not everybody can just run out and pay $1,500, $2,000 for a trio. They have to start with what they got. Can you do it? Yes. But not try to make it harder than you need to make it harder by going opposite on your birds you're getting.
Okay, so if you've been working with your strain for years, can you still apply the principles of consolidation, excluding gene shopping? But say you've had a strain for 10 years and you want to implement the principles of consolidation. Can you do that?
Yeah, we call it a subline. Absolutely. So any experimentations you want to do to your strain or your foundation line, I suggest that you don't do it to the foundation line. You do it to a subline and create a whole separate line with that. Absolutely. That's exactly what it's for.
Okay, then here's my next question. And it may or may not pertain to what you're talking about, but Frank brought up the golden duckwing. You were talking about having golden duckwing and you want to go to silver duckwing. Can you switch from golden duckwing and go to silver duckwing using your strain, or do you have to get a new set of birds?
You can do it.
You can if you get the right hen. If you're trying to create a family from golden duckwings, basically silvers with red in their wing bow or red showing up. It's impossible to actually create a family that's going to maintain that color the way you think it's going to be. The best thing to do is to stay to the homozygous side, meaning that I want to stay to the pure silver side or try to find a way to get there. And if I don't have it, if I have some cocks with some red in them, but I don't have any hens that aren't showing any red in them, they got to be white, gray, or clear tones. It's important to find the right hen. And if I don't have it, that means I got to go get it. I got to find someone who has it. And they're hard to find because I'm never going to get there if I'm using both the cock and the hen that have warm tones, that have red in them or salmon in them. That means that somehow they're going to have to express the right hens as you're going.
Takes a lot of time, and you have to do a lot of test breedings to find those hens.
And we go back to what we always say is you've got to breed or produce as many offspring as you can manage to afford to get the selection you need, because you could hatch 100 chicks and maybe only one will be the right hen to move forward with. And the problem is she might have the right color, maybe, but what if she doesn't have the right conformation? What are you going to do then? So you create a subline for that too. And you work on the color and then try to get the conformation there as you go. We always say, look for the complete package. I'm not a big tandem breeder kind of guy or tandem selection where people say work on one trait at a time. I don't want to work on a lot of traits at the same time, but I do want to work with the birds are the closest to the complete package as possible. There is a difference between those two.
Here's the thing with mine, I get some of the prettiest silver offspring, but I still get some with the rust infusion in it. That's still today. And I've had them for 8 years, which I spent a lot of that time, probably 3 or 4 years, running around in circles because I was breeding the wrong hens.
Yeah.
And they say the definition of insanity is when you keep doing the same thing over and over again. I was about to that point. and finally, I said, I'm just going to breed the other hens to see. And I was breeding the totally opposite of the hens, which we all know the reason behind that. But that was the problem. When I caught on to it, it started coming faster. Now I'll get probably 1% that shows the red leakage in it now, but I'm starting to get them there now. I'm starting to make progress.
Yeah, that's what I would do. Then the second one is the principle of maximization, amplifying the desired traits. So the idea is to selectively breed to exaggerate those specific traits, the desired ones, the ones you really want to the fullest potential, and then get them to where they should be, and then it's a balancing act after that.
But Kenny, with inside the Founders Program, and I'm not going to go too deep with it, I'm just going to say this one part, is that it allows you to find the birds with the traits that you like, and it allows you to build while magnifying and locking those traits. So it really works at what it's made for. The way Kenny wrote it out, the way he fixed it, that a lot of people says, how do you clean a gene pool up? How do you maximize the traits? You're asking those questions. The Founders Program explains all of that and how to do it. And it's amazing how it actually works out to actually do that. And it's just like picking a tool up and working on a vehicle or a plumber or whatever. It's tools to actually help you increase, intensify those traits.
Just the way it's laid out, it's just made for progression. It progresses you one step to the next, one method to the next, to the point you have your foundation line. But here we're talking about selection intensity, improving gene frequency of the traits, because you're trying to improve the important traits like body size, body type, conformation, carriage, station, performance ability, production ability, all those things. And the only way you can get there, and by the way, all those traits are what we call polygenic traits. Because if it was just a monogenic trait, such as dominant recessive, we just either select for it or we cull it to get what we want. But when we're talking about polygenic traits, it's actually selecting to the highest intensity. So we're back to selection intensity, improving the gene frequency of those traits by selecting to the highest intensity. We get there, but it takes many generations. Because we're talking about polygenic traits being form and function traits, but those are only improved over time. Like my Maximus line, this is a good example. I was using the Founders Program, but for the most part, when it came to actually selecting the birds that I was going to move forward with, it was a matter of looking at them, looking at the variations they were producing, selecting towards those, and then exaggerating them until I got to a point when it was like, okay, that's enough. I need to back off. Now I need to balance those things. Now I'm waiting for the next variation to pop up that I could take advantage of. In the meantime, I'm just breeding to the best ones that have the complete package. And little by little, they took shape because they were awful when I started. It's amazing that I got them to where they were, considering what I had to work with.
You didn't think so at the time, though.
No, I didn't. But when I start seeing that they were taking shape, even Tony would look at me and go, "You like those? Okay, whatever you say." I don't know what I saw in them, but I did. And I just felt like I could work with them. And once I got rid of all my extra birds, started working solely on those, and got more chicks on the ground, had a better selection, man, I was seeing progress like you wouldn't believe.
Yep. You have to train your eye. That's the main thing. You have to train your eye as far as selection. It's just like Amanda. When me and her first got together 16, almost 17 years ago, I hope I got there. When she looked at a chicken, she saw a chicken. Now, she could tell the roosters from the hens, but she couldn't tell the hens from the hens or the roosters from the roosters if they was all the same color. Now, I can ask her, have you seen this hen? Have you seen this hen? And she's right over there. She recognizes them as individuals now. And you have to train your eye to do that, because a lot of people, they'll tell me, what do I need to do? When I look at a chicken, I don't see the conformation. I just see a chicken.
Yeah.
They all look the same to me.
I know. I see that from veteran breeders these days.
Yep.
They cannot see the conformation, like you said. They can't see the individual characteristics. They can't even see the defects. That is so weird to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But hey, at one time, I can remember back, I was very much that way. I really was. Now, I could tell the chickens apart, but as far as the conformation, the right carriage, the right conformation of body type, I didn't see it. I had to train my eye to it. I really had to work on it. But I do believe some people were just gifted with it. They can look at a bird, you show them 10 birds, and say, which one's the best one to breed out of this? And they can tell you, but they can't tell you why.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It just comes naturally to some people.
Yeah. There's some people that can actually tell you that outcrossing or crossbreeding is a bad thing to a strain, but they're not very good at telling you why or how. Right, yeah. But no, I understand that in a way, because even when I was younger, I can't say I understood every detail of the bird, but I knew generally what the bird was supposed to look like, the shape of the bird. I did know that. I will admit that I didn't really understand the bird fully until I met Tony, and he really opened my eyes to
in a big way.
Yeah, in a big way. Oh, yeah. Because I was around this for a while, and nobody talked like Tony did. Nobody discussed the bird. What did they talk about? Station and size, and then performance ability and things like that. That was it. That's all they knew. And then you'd go to shows that were showing those kind of birds, American Games, and they were showing all kinds of different types. They weren't representing their breed whatsoever. And I would just scratch my head and like, how are these guys not seeing it? And I talked to some of them, and they were what I'd call veteran breeders. These guys were doing it for 20, 30, 40 years, and they could not see it, which amazed Tony.
I know some of those.
Yeah.
I know some of those. But see, I was the same way. If you put down the best bird, I could pick it out. But if you ask me, why did you pick that bird? And I just say, he was the prettiest. I didn't know about conformation. I was probably in my mid-20s before I ever even hear the word conformation about chickens. Had no idea of it. And I thought, what's he talking about? Conformation, a body. What is that?
Type was a big one too.
Yeah. What is that? And I had to actually look it up and see what they was talking about, because I had no clue what they was talking about.
There's a lot of people who can't determine the difference between type, conformation, carriage, and station. And they're all different.
Yeah.
Type, the silhouette, the overall shape of the bird. Conformation, all its parts in its proper places and proportions. Carriage is how it holds itself on its legs. Then you've got station is how tall does it stand on its legs. The difference between the length of the thigh and the length of the shank. That's the basic structure of the bird.
And one thing I will say that it's not, station is not where the legs are located on the bird's body. Okay, I want to say that foremost.
Oh, yeah, they're mixing
the chart
station with carriage these days, which I don't get.
Yeah.
I don't know where that started.
Because remember the chart, Kenny? The low station was in the rear next to the butt.
Yep.
Mid station was in the middle. High station was in the front of the body.
Yeah. If we're trying to maximize our selection, improve and exaggerate the strain in the individuals in the strain, we're always pushing towards perfection, knowing we're never going to reach it. We're always pushing towards perfection, knowing that we're going to improve them along the way, and we're going to get them to what we would feel like is excellence. But it never stops.
There is no perfect bird. A trained eye could come to my place, and they could pick up any one of my birds and find at least something wrong with it, maybe more. I can go to Kenny's place. Kenny could go out on his own birds and look them over and find something wrong with the bird. Even if it looks perfect, he can find something wrong with that bird. I guarantee it.
It's a curse.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Okay.
Can there be a version of your perfect bird.
Of course,
You can get close.
you can get close. Yes.
You want to strive to what you feel is your ideal bird. But the fact is, it's not something you can hold on to, even when you think you're there. Like Frank says, you can almost look at every bird, even when someone else thinks they're perfect, and I can probably find a flaw in my own bird. Yeah, I like the way he's this way. I like the type. I like how he holds himself on his legs. I like how he acts. He has a good face. He's got a good eye on him. I like the ring around the eye. Holds his tail really awesome. But there's that one thing that I wish it was just a little better, always. Holding on to that with his offspring, matching him up properly so you can benefit from him is another story. So I will say this, that like in the Founders Program, we have a cleanup process. And the whole idea of the cleanup process is to get your seed fowl and its future offspring to a point where we can get birds that are worth cloning that we can create a foundation from. Okay? As you move through the cleanup process, you get into the foundation and you spend some time there, it gets easier. They get better. You don't have as many culls. Selection is only hard because you have so many birds that are actually pretty good. When you see huge variation in your offspring, where the conformation or the form and structure, the performance ability, the production ability, the feather, all those and the different details that represent the breed are all over the place, and you have contrasting characteristics, and you're just never going to get there. And a lot of people are doing that because they're not cleaning them up. They're not breeding to their best birds. They're breeding to all their birds. And when you're breeding to all your birds, you're just spreading the genetic diversity all over the place. You're not fine-tuning them. Instead of grabbing the best out of every generation and only breeding those and not breeding to all of them is when you're going to start making progress.
In moderation.
I'll tell you what, guys, I'm just extremely grateful that you all don't think like that when it comes to finding a mate for yourself.
No, I looked for the girl with the complete package and I found her.
Oh, goodness. I'm going to stay silent on that.
No, you should be saying the same.
Yeah.
She's a sweetheart.
No, she's awesome.
Yeah.
I love her to death. Yep.
She is. I'll tell you what, she's the most humblest person ever.
She's a pleasure to be around. She's fun to be with.
She's quiet. If she's new to you, you never know she's in the room. But once she warms up to you, you know she's there.
Yeah.
Okay, so the principle of fixation, locking in those desirable traits, Frank.
That's the key to success in breeding. I think once you work out everything else out, that's all that's left. And that makes or breaks a family. The way I look at it, that right there is what builds a family. That's what makes a family unique from all others, is that right there.
And the funny part is the only way to get fixation is through inbreeding and line breeding, really close breeding. And those are the things everybody's afraid of. Let me tell you something. Whether it's chickens, game fowl, dogs, goats, anything, they all have their different breeds. Those breeds would not exist without a process of fixation, locking in those genes. You're only able to do that if you're willing to do a certain amount of inbreeding and line breeding and then tightening them up as you go.
Inbreeding is the greatest tool that breeding has, period. It's more a tool than it is a method. It's not really a method, but it's a great tool. It's the greatest tool that we have in the breeder's bag now.
You know what I like to say about that? I like that you say tool. That's very important that you're saying tool. It is not a breeding program. It's a tool.
The reason I say that it's not a program, but it's not a method, because people tend to rely on it too much. They do it for the wrong reasons with the wrong birds. If I had a project in my house and I needed a tool, then I'm going to go in the garage and get a specific tool to do that project. Inbreeding has a specific purpose to get a specific result. And so knowing how to use it properly for the right reasons, for the right length of time is important. So I can understand why a lot of people don't understand inbreeding and why they're afraid of it, because they don't know how to use it. So all they ever hear is the bad things, the worst things that happen, which are all true. If you don't do it right with the right birds, you are going to produce deleterious genes. You are going to create or actually express detrimental defects. You're going to perpetuate faults. So it's important to understand inbreeding and how to use it properly. I just don't think you can create a strain or a breed if you're not willing to do the inbreeding that's necessary to make it happen. And that's to achieve fixation and locking in specific genes.
You're right, Kenny. Everything you just said is spot on. And I want the listeners, the viewers, to think of one thing. When we use this in the correct way as a tool to lock in and magnify the traits that we desire. A lot of people is doing it out of desperation to save a family, the inbreeding. When they do it, it doesn't only magnify and lock the genes, you're basically on the good genes. It's also doing the same on the bad.
Yeah.
So they do that and they say, oh, don't ever inbreed again. Oh, it's terrible. It's awful. Don't ever do it. But like I said, Kenny just said it. They're using the wrong individuals and they're not doing it in a proper way, the way it was designed to be used. And with those, it's very dangerous. Very dangerous.
There's the other side of the coin too, where some people are using it to test mate, which is good.
Yeah.
But don't really understand how to determine the results. So what happens is they breed a brother and sister to see what's in the family, and they think that's all it's about. It's just to see what's in there. So they produce offspring that are good, okay, and really bad. Even if they see one bad bird, they think, oh, this doesn't work. There's something wrong with the birds, are flawed. I got to get new birds. No, it showed you exactly what you want to see, and it produced the good ones that you needed to move forward with. Like I said, it's understanding how it works and why to use it and what to use it with is what's important. It's a test, yeah. It's going to show you what you want to see. Tony say to me all the time that the offspring will always show you what's going on with the parents. They prove the worth of the parents. And that's never more true than when you're inbreeding. But that's a good thing because I want to produce offspring that show me exactly what's in there so I know what to expect. But I'm not going to breed to all of them. I'm going to breed to the ones that are the good ones. But Frank, we talk about all the time, is it's what you use to inbreed. So you've got to make sure that the birds you're using for inbreeding are really good. They got to be almost flawless. That means you can't see poor health. You can't see faults. You can't see deleterious genes or any defects or anything like that. Because if you're breeding birds with those, like Frank said a minute ago, you're perpetuating those things and you obviously don't understand what inbreeding is all about.
It's a greatest tool, but it can be your biggest nightmare if you don't know what you're doing.
Oh, yeah. That's why we never say everybody should use it. If you don't understand it, don't use it. But if you understand it, it's a good tool. It's a necessary tool.
All right, I've got a question from Christopher, but before I get to that, I've got a question for you two. What traits that you wanted to lock in that you had to use inbreeding and fixation?
All of them.
All the good ones.
All of them.
You guys are so vague.
No. That's it, Nancy. It's not one trait or that. We say it. We want to breed birds that are the closest to a complete package as possible. Every trait that bird carries, if they're good, we want to lock every one of them in. That's tandem mating. Tandem mating gets more people in trouble. I've been hearing this a lot lately where people say, oh, never breed for multiple traits. Maybe, like I said earlier, but you do want to breed the birds that are closest to the complete package. But if I'm breeding for one trait at a time and improving them, no, it's not going to work because as you're improving this trait, you're losing others. And then when I go to work on those others, I lose that one now. It's a balancing act. So it's all the traits.
That's the reason you got to find that one cock and that one hen that you know, that's the backbone of that family. That's that family you're starting out with. Yeah, I agree with Kenny 1,000%.
Let me say one more thing about that. I don't want people thinking they can only move forward with perfect birds. No. It's out of all the offspring you produce, it's the best ones you move forward with. And you improve them as you go. Okay? I don't want you thinking you can't move forward if they're not perfect. I'm not saying that at all. Yeah. And even some defects, although I would try to eliminate them if I can, and I would never breed two birds carrying the same defect, but I can work through defects. But understand, too, that a monogenic, dominant recessive type defect is completely different than a polygenic defect, and they're handled different and selected different.
I'm going to add to that, though, Kenny, what you said. You can improve them if you're using the Founders Program. You can actually take something that's not that good and actually improve it greatly as you go. Yeah. If you're using it in the correct manner. You can.
I don't know of any other program that does what the Founders Program does. I just don't. What's Christopher saying?
And you may have already answered his question here. If not all birds should be inbred, what is the line between inbreeding ready and being the best two of the Adam and Eve? If they are both better than the mom and dad, what's the line of moving forward?
Contact me in the Breeders' Academy. Now we're going into the Founders Program.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's a little too close.
Yeah, it's a little too close.
Good question. Good question. Really good question.
Yeah.
He says he goes, I'm trying to be a lurker. Just had that question on this topic.
Good question, though.
shame.
We got a lot of lurkers, I'm telling you. Another question, we're talking about fixation. The difference between inbreeding and line breeding. So inbreeding is, like we said, fixation, creating consistency. Line breeding is to create uniformity. They're very important. You're breeding very close, but they both have different purposes, different functions, and they do different things. I crack up when people say line breeding is just inbreeding. I understand why they're saying that. I just don't agree because they're completely different. They have different purposes and different functions. Yeah, I'm breeding them close and I'm keeping outside blood out, but they do different things, Frank. They just do.
Well, the people who says that just don't understand the methods, the breeding methods in a whole. A lot of people says they're line breeding, they're back crossing. A lot of people says they're back crossing and they're line breeding. So they get them really confused in the two. And a lot of people doesn't even see line breeding as cloning. They see it as maintaining a family, as we talked about many times on the show, Kenny.
Yeah. That is so funny. I never realized that till you said that. You said it a million times until I start hearing it from other people. I'm like, oh, man, because it does have a purpose.
Yeah.
And then the other one that goes with fixation is because we are dealing with methods that actually keep the family very tight, it's all about managing the health. Yeah, you got to be careful of perpetuating faults. So selection is a big role. Hatching as many chicks as you can manage and afford is another way of finding out which ones are the standouts. And you do have to worry about inbreeding depression. But again, as we know, inbreeding depression is the opposite side of the same coin when you're looking at hybrid vigor. One's over dominance, the other one's low vigor. One's high vigor, one's low vigor. But neither one of them, although they're expressed in the offspring, they're not inheritable, they're temporary, you can't pass it to the next generation. So it's actually easy to fix. It's not something to be as worried about as you think it would be. So if you're going to breed that close, selection is so important in the management of the health of the flock at the same time.
It's hard to get there, too. Interbreeding depression, it's hard to get them there. I think you'd really have to try, Kenny, to push them that far to actually get them to that state. I really do.
Yeah. So the next one would be the principles of duplication, achieving uniformity and predictability. This is really important because the more homozygous they are, the more predictable they're going to be, and the more we're going to be able to repeat them. And if you don't have a proper breeding program, you're not going to get to a point where we say they're pure, meaning uniformity, consistency, repeatability, predictability. If they don't have those four criteria, then you don't have a pure family. I've been on so many farms where they go, oh, this is a pure family, but look at all the contrasting characteristics. They don't have the same feather, the same comb type, the same leg color, nothing. They may be a pure family, nothing's been added to them, but this guy has not been selectively breeding them, or he's full of it, and he's been bringing in birds every few years to improve or refresh or create genetic diversity.
The clutch when they hatch looks like Skittles. That's the first indication, just like Kenny said earlier. The chicks will tell on the parents every time. Now, as far as color, I need to be more fixated as far as the color on my birds. I'm really not great when it comes to fixing the color because I don't want to change my birds just to get them all the same color. As time goes on, if I get that special bird that can help the color in it, then I'm putting him in there. But I'm not going to not choose one because his color's off that could improve my family to greater other than color. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
You just don't want something completely off that's
right
away from the family. If you're staying within the family and you're just getting a color just a little different than the rest, that can be fixed later. But I'd be careful about whether some are dominant, some are recessive, because if it's the dominant side, you're going to have to be a little more careful. You got to make sure you're breeding to the dominant side as much as possible. Recessive, it doesn't matter. You can breed whatever. So if you're selecting them properly, you're increasing or improving the gene frequency of those traits, you're going to get to a point when they're predictable and repeatable, and that's the name of the game. We want to duplicate what we're seeing in the parents. And if we're not striving towards that, what are we trying to achieve?
That's the whole achievement,
Yeah.
I always thought.
And to me, one of the best ways is to select for the complete package. But you have to understand what that means. I breed American games. If I don't understand the bird, the form and structure of the bird, the color of the bird, the temperament, whatever, what represents that breed, if I don't understand it properly, my selection is going to be awful. And I'm just never going to get there.
Yeah, selection is make or break. You still got to have that trained eye. but the birds you pick to go forward with is crucial, and the breeding program, of course. But you put those two together, good selection with a good top-notch breeding program.
You have some who only concentrate on one trait and they don't care about the other parts of the bird or what it looks like. But
Yeah.
that one trait is perfect for them and that's all they care about. But what they don't understand is that if they did care about the rest of the functions of the bird, they would have a greater bird.
That's what they say.
Short-lived.
I think it's a bunch of crap. They don't
It's
know
short-lived.
what to look for. They don't know what they're supposed to have. As long as they do this, but they don't care if it has that, that's because they don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. They don't understand the bird. You're telling me you want an ugly bird as long as it can do the purpose for which it was bred? You don't care if it has the right type and conformation?
You know what I tell people, though, that says that? I'll contact you in about 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And we'll see how it's going for you.
Let's see how many times you've added blood into it to fix
Yeah.
it.
That trait's gone.
Yeah.
That trait's gone after a while.
Because if
So-
you're not breeding for the whole package, you're going to lose. How do I say this? You're going to lose that bird. You're going to lose that family because they're just not going to represent that breed in so many different ways. They're always the same people that are adding new blood or getting rid of them and getting new blood.
There's always pigeon races.
Okay, so let's move on to the next one. The principles of stabilization, maintaining strain integrity. The way I look at this is when you're trying to maintain the family, you do it through culling. Culling maintains a family. If you're trying to progress a family, you're using selective breeding. You're actually using selection. Intensity, looking for the traits that you're trying to improve, you find desirable, moving forward, but you're always culling the bad ones, and that's what's maintaining them. So it's a matter of understanding which birds to cull, which birds to select, exaggerating certain traits, and how far.
Yeah, because moderation can get you there, but just don't go hog wild with it. A lot of people wants to make a cross and say, there's the finished product. This is my strain. It doesn't work that way. Kenny, how many years did it take you to get your birds where you truly thought that they was your foundation blood? How many years from start to finish?
I want to say 12 years where I thought they were pretty good. But I'm not done. They still improve. I'm still improving them.
That's a lifeline goal. But to breed any chickens to where you can say, this is my foundation line at the moment, okay? It takes a good 10 to 15 years at least. Not overnight.
The Black Pearls were at the 15-year mark. The last 5 years, they've been pretty good. They're still improving, but it was about 5 years ago, I was like, okay, now they're doing good. I'm actually accomplishing something. Ask Nancy, because I'm so busy and have so much to do, I just don't need a lot of different breeds. In that first 15 years, there was many times I was like, you know what, maybe I should just get rid of the Black Pearls and just say, I don't have time for this.
You tell me that.
Yeah, and many
You tell me
times I
that.
thought about that. In the last 4 or 5 years, oh my God, they are so good.
They looked good when I was out there, and they wasn't even full feather, and they looked.
Oh, wait till you see them now. Matter of fact, I did a coaching call with one of my members, and he goes, tell me, Kenny, I know you love your Maximus line, but really, the Black Pearls are your favorite, right? You know what? I was thinking about it. I go, you know what? I'm getting there to where they may just be my favorites.
If I see a like from Kenny on social media on a bird, it's always a black influence of some sort. The bird's always the regal, the wine color, that dark hue. I've never seen him actually with a like on any other bird. That's what his eye seeks. And each breeder is different to that. We're pulled toward a different variety of birds.
No, I agree. But I do try to push like on birds, even if it's not my favorite color. If I feel that bird's a good representation of its breed, has good color, conformation, type, the whole bit, I'll push like on it. Because I want to show my support for that bird and whoever bred it, even if it's not my favorite variety. Like, I'm not a big silver duckwing kind of person. But when I see a good one, I really do.
Many of them.
No, there really isn't. And I'll say it. I'll go in their comments and say, hey, nice bird. I'd create a family from this one. Because there's just not very many good ones.
And they're
you
like,
said.
what are you talking about, man? They already are a family. I made 6 crosses last year from to get them to where they're at.
Yeah, really.
Oh boy.
So selection to improve the family, culling to maintain them, and culling hard, not accepting anything. Whatever you find, you breed to. If it's a fault, you're tolerating it, you're perpetuating it, you're going to ruin your family. Everybody's, if I cull all these birds and I'm only going to have 1 or 2 to breed to, good.
That's all you need.
That's what you want. You don't want to breed to all of them. If you want to just mass produce birds, then whatever. But if you're actually trying to create a strain or improve a strain, it's the few birds that are the best that you actually want to breed to. You want to keep that tight.
But you just said it though, Kenny. That's raising birds. That's not breeding. That's just making numbers is all that is.
Now, here's the dangers of stabilizing a family, which I find people get into because they don't really know how far to go or how tight to go. And that is genetic drift. Now, genetic drift is a really cool evolutionary mechanism that we can use in our favor for the right reasons. Let me talk about how it works in the wild. There's a term called Frogville, where there's a certain area where majority of the frogs in this area were all green. But you would see a blue one every now and then. And then the wolves would come over and they would always eat the blue ones that kept the numbers down. Then a fire came, lightning hit trees, lit up the place on fire, killed almost all the green ones. And so all of a sudden, because the wolves weren't picking on one, but the weather killed the other ones went in a completely different direction. So the environment caused a reaction to where the genome went in a different direction than it was. We see this in our chickens. There's 2 ways to look at this. If I have a huge flock and all of a sudden a disease comes and knocks out most of my birds and leaves only a few. Now, depending on whether that disease killed good birds or bad birds is going to determine which direction the few birds I have are going to go. So if it killed all my good birds and I left with a few of my worst birds, you can imagine what direction I'm going to be forced to go. It's going to take me many years to get them back to where they were or somewhere close to what they were, and hoping that the genes that are in the family are in those birds. So if I lose a bunch of birds, I lose most of my bad ones, but I have a few good ones, then I have a good chance of actually recovering the strain, make them even better than they were because now I'm dealing with a lower number of genes. If I were to go to Frank's house and buy birds from him, depending on the sample that I get from him, how good that sample represents his birds will determine how well I'm able to create a strain from the birds he gave me. Can I get there from the bad birds he might have gave me? Possibly, if I understand what to select for and how to move forward with them. It's going to just take me a long time. Frank gave me some really good birds. There's a chance that not only can I create a great family from it, because I'm dealing with a smaller number of genes, I could possibly build a better family than Frank's, if I understand what I'm doing. Okay?
Yeah.
That is the fear that a lot of these bigger breeders have by giving you good birds, that you're going to end up with better birds than them because of the lower number of birds carrying the lower number of genes. And if he gives you good birds, he could easily come out worse than you. That you could actually have a better strain than him if you know what you're doing. Genetic drift is something that can work in your favor or it could knock you out. So if I'm culling the wrong birds and selecting the wrong birds, genetic drift kicks into place and that'll determine the direction I go. So it's always important to understand that if I'm culling birds, I got to cull the right ones. If I'm selecting birds, I got to select the right ones. If I'm exaggerating traits, I got to make sure I exaggerate the right traits, because genetic drift is going to kick my ass or it's going to be beneficial to me.
I've had 2 different really well-known breeders tell me that was the biggest reason they always give them non-related birds, because they didn't want to sell them any that was related because they could end up having better birds than what they actually.
It's a true fear of these guys. What are you going to do? So you, as a buyer, and you're going to someone's farm to buy birds, you need to understand that breeder, in a lot of ways, is not working in your favor, maybe. Unless you're a family or friend, there's a chance you're not going to get the best birds because he doesn't want you to reproduce them, and he definitely doesn't want you to have birds that are better than his. If he gives you good birds, you're able to outbreed him, then you're either a competitor or you're going to be producing his birds and outselling him. So there's a lot of reasons they do that. So as a buyer, you just got to be really careful of what you buy. I tell people all the time, I wouldn't order them in the mail. I'd pick them myself. I'd educate myself and I'd be knowledgeable about the birds so that when I go to their farm, I'm going to select the right birds.
I've seen a lot of times that people, especially this day and time, they'll send them a picture of the bird and the birds will look really good, but it's never the birds that they end up sending. Every time. Wow. I had a guy just do that the other day. Said, look at this bird. It's what he was supposed to send me. This is the bird I got. And he's telling me it's the same bird. It was a totally different bird. It wasn't even close to the same.
Yeah, it's a shame. Wow. I feel for people trying to get started trying to find good
I
birds.
do too.
Yeah.
The thing about it is, I do feel for them, but, and I'm going to say it for the 50th million time, what if they had what we have right now? They've got the academy to go to.
Yeah.
We didn't have that.
No.
You know, what if we had that, Kenny, back in the late 70s, the early 80s, and had that information on the breeding that we've got now? What if we'd had that back then?
I'm jealous that we didn't have something like this. If people understood just the fact we're doing the show, Frank, benefits so many people. And we teach really good stuff. And as good as this stuff is, if they only knew how much better it is inside the Breeders' Academy, and the breeding programs that we offer are like none other. Founders Program, the Gene Shopping Program, the Improvement Through Reduction Program. If they understood what's available to them, how much different it would be. I'm already seeing the trend improving. I'm already seeing just the way people are talking is different.
A lot of it is common sense.
Yeah.
A lot of it is just basic common sense. And when you get into it, once you do learn it, you're thinking, gosh, why didn't this just come to me? Why didn't I think of that?
It's so simple and it makes so much sense. Why didn't I not know this? But I would never have known it until someone introduced it to me, like the Breeders' Academy. It's so obvious, but it took something like the Breeders' Academy and the Founders Program to introduce it to them. And they were like, of course, that's how it works. That's how it should work.
I was close.
Yeah.
I was really close. But without using it as a whole, it doesn't work. It's got to be used as written. You take shortcuts and say, I'm feeling kind of lazy. I'm just going to skip this part. It's not going to work out.
Even if you see the Founders Program, you understand how it works. Man, I'm telling you, that's just not enough, because as good as that is, the programs and courses within the Breeders' Academy, the website, really help you understand how it all works and why it works and why you need to do it. There's just so much information there that supports that program that the program by itself, it's fine. But once you read a lot of the other programs and courses on the website, it really makes you understand why you're doing what you're doing. Because I've had so many people said, okay, yeah, they were in there for a month or two. They felt like they understood the Founders Program, didn't really check out the rest of the programs. And then they weren't understanding the significance of each of those methods and why they work. And they were just easily influenced to go to something else that was flashier and quicker, or what they thought was quicker.
Easier to do.
That they thought was easier to do because everybody else was doing. And then they just forgot about the Founders Program. And then they would hear our show, get back in, check out the Founders Program again, because we have improved it, by the way, with a lot of videos. And then start reading some of the other articles and the programs and courses on the website. And they're going, now I get it. What was I thinking? I hear that all the time.
Success in anything is never easy.
Yeah.
You've got to work for it. You got to put your time in. You've got to put your patience in, and you've got to push yourself to do it. Was it hard for me in the beginning? Yes, because I didn't understand it the way I understand it now. But once you understand it, it's easy. A lot of people out there says, oh, you can't maintain a family for 30, 40 years, 50 years. It's impossible.
Yeah.
I've bred chickens all my life. It's impossible. And it is impossible because they don't know how to do it. But if you know how to do it, it makes it so much easier.
Okay, Nancy, your turn.
The virtual tour of the Breeders' Academy website.
Okay.
Which we need to redo.
Yeah, we do.
If anybody is interested in looking to see what we have inside the Breeders' Academy, they can go look at that video. And where can they find that video?
The easiest place is on my YouTube channel. It's there. I think it's called Website Tour 2024.
Then my next question, back to the principle of stabilization. Question for you is, would it be in your best interest to write down your goals at the beginning of the year of what traits you want to improve on for that year so that you can keep
see, you keep
on
going back to the same thing, Nancy. I don't look at it that way. I'm not picking specific traits to improve. I'm looking for the offspring that they're producing that are closest to the complete package, that are free of defects, that are healthy. That's what I'm looking for. I don't want to pay attention to just one trait here and there.
Test them, find out which ones best suit you, which one is more of the total package, and then you go with the best one that you've got, and just keep doing that every year.
But following the program.
Yeah.
Because if you don't understand...
That's a must.
Yeah, because those methods are there for a reason. Yeah, you're stuck on fixing them part by part. No.
Yeah, one trait's dangerous. That's a sublime.
Okay, that's not exactly what I meant by that.
Okay.
It's just... I don't know how else to describe it.
You'll think as we get off air, why didn't I say it that way? That's
No,
what happens
Kenny
to
and I
y'all,
will
so.
argue about it for half an hour until I finally get on board. I got my strain going and it looks really good. And I know I've got to go for the complete package. I get that. But say, other than it being the complete package, my birds are looking really good right now. You're to the point where you've been breeding for so many years that now you can look at the color and improve on the color, like little things like that.
Okay, but still, you're not making goals to improve those. Once they're showing themselves, they're express, and they're beneficial, then you exaggerate those traits, but you're still looking for the complete package. I like the black ring around the eyes of my birds, but if it was lacking and I would want to perpetuate that, and I could actually create a subline and work on that trait, yeah. But if I'm sacrificing other traits because I really want that eye, no, that's not a good thing.
Yeah,
So
no,
if I'm
yeah.
looking at the complete package, I'm actually also looking at the traits that benefit or represent its breed the most too. So I'm not going to let little things push me away from the things that are important, which is the overall structure of the bird.
Sacrificing one trait for all the bird.
Yeah, that is not good. Yeah, that would be really bad.
That's terrible.
Only
we go
in
back
a
to what we was
subline.
talking about earlier, Nancy, that one trait type deal. It doesn't matter. One trait's one trait.
Now, the funny thing about subline is, and it's where I would work on those traits, it's where I do all the experimentation, but I would say most of the time the sublines never work out like you think they're going to work out. They just don't, because your idea of what you thought you could create from these two birds is fine because you are looking at the phenotype. That's all you have to select from. But you never know in the genome that's going to express itself as a variation and maybe even screw you up. So you don't know what's hidden in there. All you can select is what's being expressed, which is a phenotype. So every year, you just never know what's going to be expressed and what you're going to be able to do with them until they're actually producing offspring. Does that make sense? I think I went off the road on that one.
Chris said the statement that I made as far as going with the best bird every year. He said, that sounds like best to the best, Frank, LOL. There's a time for that. Now, when we say best to the best, it's outside of being a family. When you're inside of building a true family, it is best of the best that you've got. But when me and Kenny was going back on that, talking about best to the best, they're just taking hybrids and breeding best to the best. They're not creating a family or anything. I just want to clear that up.
They have a whole group of birds on a farm. They're not a family. They're not related. And they're just taking this best hen to this best rooster and producing. That's what we say when we're saying best of the best. Because obviously, breeding your best birds, no matter where you're at in the Founders Program, what method you're using, you don't want to breed your worst birds. You want to breed your best birds. You're going to breed your best daughter to her father. If you're breeding brother and sister, you're breeding the best brother to the best sister. I get it. Yeah. So don't take that too literally. It's just that when we criticize it, it's because these people have a group of birds. They're not really trying to create a family. And they say, oh, yeah, I don't know about line breeding. I don't know about inbreeding. I don't know about all that purity stuff. I just breed best of the best. That's when it's a problem. Okay, the last one would be the principles of isolation. So you're safeguarding the purity and the health of your strain. Mm-hmm. And it means like keeping a closed yard, keeping outside influences out of your birds, preventing contamination from outside blood. And that contamination can be the genetics of the bird, adding outside genetic material to your birds, or it could be adding disease from other birds too. So it's important to keep those birds isolated, not taking the chance of adding something to them that could either destroy them genetically or health-wise, or both.
You want to remember one thing. 87 to 89 different defects.
I have 88
inside the
listed,
academy.
yeah.
Okay. But remember this. The number one genetic defect of them all is health.
Is you.
Yep.
Sickness.
No health. Yep.
Health is disease in a chicken. We're not only magnifying and locking in traits, we're locking in that sickness too. So every bird's going to have that in its genome. So you want to stay away from any sick birds. And I see so many people, guys, that they'll take birds, they'll stay away from the sick bird, but they come up on this one bird and he's sickly, but they pumped him full of medicine and he's all right at the time. They throw him in there and breed him within that, and it's downhill from there. So just don't breed sick birds. Breed sick birds, you get sick birds.
Medications hide weaknesses, hide sicknesses, hide disease. Okay?
Crutch.
Yeah, just a crutch. So I tell people all the time, I'm not a fan of vaccinations. I'm not a fan of medications. I'm not a fan of supplements. To me, if my bird, Obviously, I want to feed them the best I can. I'm not going to feed them crap. I'm going to select the best feeds that are available, and I'm going to make the best mix that covers the nutrients that I think my birds need. So I'm not going to feed them poorly. I think the biggest feeds that are out there that are most damaging is just typical layer feeds. People think they can feed their layer feeds with some scratch, and they think that's a feed, or they just feed them gamecock feeds with nothing else in them, and I think that's a big issue. In that case, I guess you need supplements. But the truth is, I'm a big fan of use the supplements until you can get your feed proper and then get rid of the supplements. I'm not a big fan of feeding supplements all the time because a lot of times those supplements take them too far. How many members Frank and I have had to work through to help them recover their birds because they're using supplements too much? They're relying on these supplements and all of a sudden their birds are having problems. I've lost count of how many people that I've had to work with because of supplements. So I'm not a big fan of it.
Yeah, molting right in the wintertime, dropping feathers.
Losing muscle.
Losing breasts.
Yep.
Yeah, a bunch of them. But it's like this. Like Kenny said, if you use supplements and you see a big increase in your birds, that's telling me and telling your birds that you need to up your nutrition. That's the only thing it's saying. It's not fairy dust and you've got healthy, beautiful birds. It's just saying, hey, you need to increase your nutrition up some.
Yeah, and if you have proper feed, you don't need the supplements. You're overdoing it.
That's true.
So that's how I look at it. But as far as isolation, you have geographic isolation. So you're basically maintaining a separation between your birds and other birds. Your birds with outside blood, your birds with disease, things like that. And then you have genetic isolation where you're making sure that whatever birds are on your farm that aren't part of that family, you're not breeding them to or accidentally breeding them to. Because once you do that, you won't believe how fast they'll go in a different direction. And the fact is you don't know they're going in the wrong direction until the 4th or 5th generation. And you're like, oh, shoot, where all this come from? You know what I mean? And that's when you find it out.
Hey, Kenny, you might have to add one to the defect list.
Yes. And it's exactly what I had said. And I couldn't get in a word edgewise. And even I think it was Jason said, good point, Nancy. Yes. The number one defect
breeder?
in all of it is the breeder not being able to understand and see
That's true.
the defect on his yard.
Yeah. A breeder doesn't know what he's doing. He's a defect to his birds. I think it was Jason. I did a coaching call with him one time. And it was so funny. He made me feel good. He goes, I think you could, because he was complimenting me as a teacher and a breeder. He goes, I think you could actually create a strain from one feather. And I was like, hey, that's pretty good. I like that. All you need is one feather, you create a family. I'm like, that is cool. So I don't need the bird. I just need a feather.
Okay. Barb said, does that include bumblefoot when you're talking about
No, that's not a defect. That's like a health issue.
It can be by debris embedding in the foot. It can be caused from a bruise, jumping down off the roost. So it's more or less us hurting yourself. Yeah.
It's an infection.
It sets up infection. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways to keep that from happening on your birds. And I suggest you all do it. Make sure that the roost isn't too high. Make sure you don't have a lot of sharp rocks in your
soft bedding.
Soft bedding in your pens.
Yeah. One more thing I want to say about this as far as isolation is because we do want to protect the integrity of our family by not adding outside blood that could definitely change them. But understand this, for those who are always adding new blood, thinking that those birds are always going to improve mine, they think that they need to refresh them or add something to them every 3 to 5 years. Otherwise, they get too inbred. They do change them. But if you're really serious about making a family out of them, understand this. When we look at evolutionary mechanisms like gene flow, the only time a species becomes a species is when the flow of genes stops. And then they adapt to their surroundings and then they start to reproduce themselves. Same thing with chickens. Until we stop the flow of genes coming into that family, we don't have a family. We're never going to reach a point of purity to the point they're uniform, consistent, predictable, and repeatable. So the idea of adding new blood to improve them is wrong. Understand the only way you're going to create a family is to stop adding the new blood. Stop that flow of genes of new blood, and you will create a family. So just be patient. Understand that it does take time. Improvements can be subtle at times. As long as the offspring are better than the parents, you're moving in the right direction. Using a proper breeding program, I'm a big advocate of that, is important because there's a lot of programs out there that look good. They look like they actually accomplished something, but they're not really programs at all. They're actually creating the genetic diversity you're actually hoping to get rid of. They rely on breeding you to what we call the wall, the dead end zone. to where the only other thing you can do is add new blood to refresh them because you bred them too close for the wrong reasons.
Christopher was asking, same as the law of genetic drift?
I don't know what he's referring to.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are you referring to, Christopher, so that Kenny can answer that question
Genetic
for you?
drift is a reaction to dealing with a smaller number of birds, fewer genes, less genetic diversity that originate from a bigger family. And what direction they're going to go is going to be determined by the genes they brought with them. Does that make sense?
It says what he was just saying when influx stops.
Okay. Gene flow is what we see when we're outcrossing or crossbreeding, when we're breeding unrelated birds together. That's completely different than gene flow. If you look at genetic drift, we can relate this to mechanisms that are under gene flow. Genetic drift would be bottlenecking, which is usually bad because it's the environment forcing you to deal with a lower number of birds, and the founder's effect, which is good. If you selected the right birds, except if I go to Frank's house and buy a couple birds, I got good birds. I'm creating a new family with really good birds. That's the founder's effect. That's what you want. Bottlenecking is what happens to you. The founder's effect is what you use to move a strain forward. Those are both genetic drift. Gene flow is all about outcrossing, crossbreeding, infusion, bringing outside blood or crossing two birds that aren't related or bringing outside blood into an established family. That's gene flow. So they're completely different. So that's the presentation. Anything we want to say before we get out and go to the back end?
Yes. We have one question here probably for Frank. Wheat germ oil. What do you know about it? He has a buddy who feeds it every day and puts it in his feed.
Every day?
Who feeds it every day with his feed.
No, not every. How long has this guy done this for? Wheat germ oil is good for the feathers. It contains a high level of vitamin E in it, which they can be OD'd on. As far as vitamin E, it's good to use during the breeding season because it can make the roosters a little bit more friskier from the vitamin E, but I wouldn't give it no more, maximum a couple times a month. Now, if you want to use oil for your feathers to get that nice, healthy plumage and that extra fat, I would use soybean or olive oil. I would use those two, soybean being much cheaper than the olive oil, much cheaper. You can get that just about any grocery store, but feed them wheat germ oil every day? No, I would not recommend that whatsoever. That would be dangerous.
Okay. That was the only question I had started. We had already answered everything else.
Okay.
So we are ready to go into the back end.
Okay, we're going to go into the back end with our members, answer your questions, bring your questions with you. We could talk a little bit more about this if you guys want to, but if you have any specific questions, we can answer them on the back end. So I want to thank you guys for joining me. I really appreciate it. And for all our followers and our members, you guys really make this happen, so I appreciate it.
Thanks, Sue. She was welcoming me back. Thanks, Sue. I appreciate that.
Awesome. So we'll see you guys next week. See you later.
See you guys.
Bye.
Okay, thanks for listening.
Yes, thank you again for joining us on the Bred to Perfection podcast show. This show was brought to you by the Breeders Academy, where by becoming a member, you can increase your knowledge of breeding, advance your skills as a breeder, and take you and your fowl to the next level.
We can also show you how to create a strain from hybrid crosses or mongrel flocks, and help you to create, maintain, and improve your present strains. We urge you to check it out. You have nothing to lose, and you can cancel anytime.
To join us at the Breeders Academy membership website, go to www.breedersacademy.com.
Best of all, I'll be there to help you every step of the way.
While you're checking out the Breeders Academy, make sure to sign up for our newsletter, The Breeders Bulletin. We provide a lot of free bonus materials and some great information that will take you and your fowl to the next level. Well, that's it for now.
We hope you join us next time for another episode of Bred to Perfection. We'll see you later.
Bye. Welcome to the after show. This is the part of the show that doesn't exist. What happens in the after show stays in the after show. If you've mentioned to your friends about the after show, which happens from time to time, no worries. Just tell them not to let out our little secret area of the show. Enjoy!
But to breed extremes like a squirrel tail over the back so much that sometimes they touch the head, to me that's not common sense. That's breeding to a fault. So why wouldn't I, if I'm looking for a proper tail, why wouldn't I figure out what that tail angle should be and then breed to that?
This is what I think about it, and I know that you think of this too, is the tail is the rudder. It helps balance the bird. And if the rudder is too high or too low, the bird is off balance. It may not show because the bird is making up for it, balancing himself, making up for it, because that's just like us. When you have weak arms and you haven't worked out, you make up for it by not lifting heavy things. I think that with just weak arm structure, you just don't have the arm muscles, then you know that you have that defect and you compensate for it.
Yeah, I don't pick up heavy things.
No big face, you just pick up a pin. That's it.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. The bird does. The bird compensates for that. But it's so important for the tail to be proportionate properly to the rest of the body.
Yeah.
And that's why we have standard of perfections. That's why we have the American standard perfection we should follow. Just because you have a squirrel tail bird that performs perfectly in every way doesn't necessarily mean that's the bird that you should be breeding with. That should not be your brood fowl.
Now, I will say this, and I hope it's not contradicting everything I've been saying, because I'm thinking American game all the way. And I do have a standard on my website, but Tony has one too, which is very good. So if you breed American game, this is a good one to get and start, especially when it comes to type and conformation. Your bird should match the right type and conformation for it to represent its breed properly. Now, color is another thing that, how do I say this? I have issues with a lot of it. And I did a coaching call with one of my members. I'm not sure if she wants me to say her name. And we had a long discussion about the standard and the people running it and how much of it you should follow, and dealing with judges at shows and how some judges judge differently than others. Some follow a standard, some don't. Sometimes the standard has birds in its standard that are from other countries, but the standard in the American Poultry Association doesn't match the standard of that bird's origins. So that's an issue. So there's a lot of confusion, and some of my biggest problems with the standard is that most of the birds that are in the standard can't be reproduced. By breeding the cock and hen, you don't always get the same color. So they have to be double mated. To me, that's a problem. I was talking to one of my friends who is a judge, and he says, well, if I go to your criteria, the only thing that's going to be in the standard is white and black. I go, I don't believe that's true. There's a lot of colors that actually reproduce themselves, especially things like red, gray, like the silver duckwing, the red duckwings. There's multiple breeds. But if they can't reproduce themselves by breeding the cock to the hen, that you have to do special things like having a cox line, a stag line, a hen line, a pullet line, and breeding certain colors with other colors to get the right color, to me, that doesn't work. Also, judges have to be on the same page so that it's not confusing exhibitors. I know, we've seen it ourselves. Remember that time that one bird of that show was like one of the worst birds in the show, had good color, but the type and conformation was really off. He won the show because the judge didn't really understand the bird. So I understand there can be some confusion when it comes to the standard, but for American game, I think we should follow the standard. Especially when it comes to type and conformation, I think the standard in general is good too. Whether it's the APA or the American game standard, like Tony's, the type and conformation should be the same no matter what. I think the biggest confusion is in the color and some of the details. Like this one breeder I was talking to recently, she has a real issue with the white earlobe, where her breed in its country of origin has white earlobes, but here they want red, and they think that she should change that to match their standard. And I told her, don't ever breed for the judge. Breed the way you think they should be according to the standard of their origins. Don't let the judge pick your birds for the brood pen. That's a big one for me. If you are enjoying the show and would like to learn more, I encourage you to join me at the Breeders Academy. By becoming a member, I can help you to achieve the competitive advantage.